Hi, this is Aiden Pianina again. Today we're going to review a clone console that I quite enjoy, the Hyperkin Supaboy. Now, this is much like a Sega Nomad, and it's very well made by Hyperkin. It has two controller ports on the front, a D-pad, 4 face buttons, a reset, like the place of the Game Gear, like the start button, a start and a select reverse sides, an L and an R button, AV out and on off, DC in 5 volts, and a cartridge slot, headphone jack, and volume. We'll get to the volume later. It's very, very poor. Now, there are some great things with the Hyperkin Supaboy. It can play games such as Star Fox and the FX2 chip, like Doom for the Super Nintendo, which has the FX2 chip. But I'm going to showing you Super Mario All-Stars. There are some problems. Let's start with the positives of the console. The D-pad and the face buttons are very nice. The control ports are in correct positioning, and it has a very, very strong battery. And the AV out is very nice. It isn't bad. It almost looks as close as a real Super Nintendo, but isn't quite. This shows the screen is a amazing LCD screen. It's very, very good. I quite like this screen. It is bright enough. The sad thing is there's no brightness settings to the screen, so that's a little bit of a downside. It plays very well. The negatives of this thing are that the speakers are crap. They are horrible, horrible, horrible speakers. These speakers suck. Another thing is there's no brightness, and there's no stand when you place it in console. When you put it down, it always feels like it's gonna fall over and just break if you're using it as a main console which I don't. I use my real Super Nintendo for that. It does have these little bumps on the bottom that you're playing that are supposed to set it down like this, but that doesn't really work, and it kind of bends the controllers, which isn't good. Another thing is this useless locking for the cartridge, which does completely nothing. It locks the cartridge in, but not really. Another thing is it's kind of these buttons are kind of awkward and just okay, but that's okay. That's not a big problem. And the start and select, you'll hit select, meaning to press start, and start, meaning to press select. And if you play the Game Gear a lot, like I do, you accidentally press this as start, because it just feels like it should be a start button, accidentally resetting your game. Another thing is, I believe if it was a little more expensive, like instead of $80 like it is for this thing, it should have a little more like a $90 or $100. It should have an SD card slot for either saving games or emulating. Like, you have the option to put in a cartridge to play the game that natively, or emulate games, which would be a nice thing, but I can see why they didn't. Not a big thing. So that's the Hyperkin Supaboy. A very worthwhile purchase, and the best part about it, it feels like it was actually made by Nintendo, and it feels like it came out in the 90s to rival the Sega Nomad. That is a review of a short, quick review of the Hyperkin Supaboy.